Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to what's on the playlist today. Today, I'm going to talk about the debut album by Van Halen, titled Van Halen, and in which you will see here. Um, None is going to be new to anyone who's familiar with the band because they were talked about a lot by people who are their fans. So, but for those of you who don't know, Eddie and Alex Van Halen were born in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, I believe. Their family moved here when they were both under the age of 10 to Pasadena, California. Around this time, Eddie Van Halen began teaching himself to play the piano by ear. He got so good at it, he won local talent shows, despite not having actually learned to read music, or at least sight read, which is the act of like looking at music for the first time and then playing what you're seeing. So, Eddie and Alex started playing together. Eddie Van Halen on the drums and Alex on the guitar. But while Eddie was out doing a paper route trying to pay for his drum set, his brother Alex was at home practicing on the drums. And when Eddie Van Halen finally found out about it, he's like, "Fine, you take the drums, I'll play the guitar instead," and they switched places. Um, so yeah, Eddie Van Halen was kind of a musical virtuoso just from the get-go. Excuse me. You know, they began forming bands and playing around the California area. They eventually did form their first band as teenagers, you know, young adults playing around the California area. They were renting their sound system from a guy named David Lee Roth, whose father had a business that gave him access to it. They eventually asked him to join the band to avoid paying him money every time they had to rent the sound system, and he became their vocalist and frontman. And they've gained even more popularity because of David Lee Roth's onstage energy and antics. Their bassist was kind of indifferent about being in a professional band, so they kind of replaced him with I think it was one of Eddie's, someone he knew from college, from school, Michael Anthony. And there we have the formation of the band. They were very popular around Southern California. They were eventually discovered by a local Los Angeles DJ who got in touch with Gene Simmons from the band Kiss to come and listen to them. I actually got them to make a demo, and Eddie was not very impressed with the demo, and neither were other people. Eddie's opinion was that they weren't really using their own equipment, they were using someone else's, so that's why it didn't sound good to them. So Gene Simmons kind of backed out of the project, but they did eventually get, I think Ted Templeton? Yeah, Ted Templeton managed to back them, and they got their first album made. This exploded on the hit charts. For a debut album, this reached number 19 on the U.S. Billboard charts, and kind of started the this style of music, this style of heavy metal, what I used to call the big hair bands. You know, big long hair with tons of hairspray. Although these guys had long hair, they didn't use the big hairspray of some of the other big hair metal bands that of the same era. All the songs on here were just big hits. I think "Running with the Devil" is that a cover? It's squeaky. This album, I don't know if I did it. Vocals, all songs written by. Oh, "You Really Got Me," written by Ray Davies. "Ice Cream Man" by John Brim. So "You Really Got Me" was the Stones. This album also had one of Eddie Van Halen's signature guitar solos with "Eruption," which is a really, really good guitar solo. And Eddie Van Halen just kind of erupted on the guitar scene. Just nothing he was doing was really new, but he was doing it in such a way that just kind of blew people. He was doing it with such energy and like I said, in a way that just really took people by storm. For myself, Van Halen is one of those bands that I didn't like right away. I was actually annoyed by them. I don't even remember why. Um, I think it might have been because there are other band performers like this. I think I've mentioned my initial reluctance with Melissa Etheridge because she was just on the radio all the time, and it just the constant repetition annoyed the hell out of me. And I think that's the same thing with Van Halen. They were just on the radio so much, and everyone's like talking about how awesome they were. And it's like I just didn't care. And then one day I heard one of their songs, not on this album, but a song that I really, really liked. And I didn't really become a fan of them until like after I graduated high school. I just remember driving around in my car when I finally got my first car, and I was the one driving my friends around. I remember like just putting Van Halen in and cranking the volume. But yeah, this was not one of the staples of my youth when they were first around. I think this was about 1979, 78. Yeah, and I didn't start listening to them until late '85. But yeah, Van Halen's first 3 or 4 albums are really, really their best, in my opinion. And their debut album just broke onto the charts just to smash everything and almost initiated a new wave of a new style of music, whatever you call it. As always, thanks for watching. As always, my stuff is crap. And until next time, good hunting.